A weak man says sorry to end the noise. A stoic man says sorry only when he has betrayed the truth. My friend, listen carefully. There is a kind of apology that heals, and there is a kind of apology that quietly destroys a man. The first one is born from responsibility. The second one is born from fear. And too many men have been trained to confuse fear with love. They are told that if a woman is upset, they must fix the feeling immediately. If she cries, they must take the blame. If she becomes cold, silent, emotional, or disappointed, they must kneel before the storm and call it maturity. But this is the harsh truth. If peace requires you to lie, it is not peace. It is emotional hostage-taking with softer language. This video is called Stoic Men Never Apologize for the Truth. Not because a Stoic man is never wrong. A real Stoic apologizes quickly when he has acted without virtue. If he lied, he admits it. If he was cruel, he corrects it. If he allowed anger to rule his tongue, he takes responsibility. That is not weakness. That is strength under the command of truth. But a Stoic man does not apologize for another person's refusal to face reality. He does not say sorry for having standards. He does not say sorry for respecting his own time. He does not say sorry because someone else is uncomfortable with accountability. He does not use false words to place a pillow under another person's ego. In love, emotions are waves. They can rise quickly. They can crash loudly. They can make the whole shore tremble. But truth is the anchor. And if a man pulls up the anchor every time the waves get loud, the relationship does not become peaceful. It becomes directionless. Many men believe they are being noble when they apologize just to keep the relationship calm. They say to themselves, "It is only 2 words. It is not worth the fight. Let me absorb it. Let me be the bigger person." But repeated false apologies do not make you the bigger person. They make you a smaller one. Because every time you apologize for something you did not do, you teach the other person that your dignity is negotiable. You teach them that enough pressure can make you abandon your own judgment. You teach your own soul that truth is less important than approval. And over time, a man who lies to keep love begins to lose the part of himself that made him worthy of love in the first place. This is where Stoic philosophy enters. The Stoics taught that virtue is the only true good. Not comfort, not approval, not being liked, not avoiding conflict. Virtu, truth, courage, self-control, justice. If your relationship asks you to abandon these things to keep someone pleased, then what you are protecting is not love. It is a cracked vase with flowers placed on top. From a distance, it looks beautiful, but underneath, water is leaking everywhere. A false apology is that flower. It makes the moment look softer, but the fracture remains, and eventually, the whole thing breaks. My friend, do not misunderstand me. A Stoic man is not cold. He listens. He sees the tears. He notices the trembling voice. He understands that feelings are real. But real does not always mean righteous. A feeling can be real and still be unfair. Pain can be real and still be misplaced. Anger can be real and still be manipulative. The mature man can hold compassion in one hand and truth in the other. That is the sword and the sheath. Truth without compassion becomes cruelty. Compassion without truth becomes weakness. A Stoic man must carry both. So in this lesson, we will examine the kind of moment many men face in silence. A moment where love demands a false confession. A moment where peace is offered only if self-respect is surrendered. A moment where the words, "be a man," are used not to call him upward, but to push him down. And we will ask the question most people avoid. Should a man apologize to protect love if the apology requires him to betray truth? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you will understand that real love does not require you to delete yourself. Real peace does not require falsehood, and a real Stoic man would rather stand alone with integrity than be embraced inside a lie. When emotions rise like waves, a Stoic man must become the anchor of truth. When love becomes emotional, most men panic. They think their job is to stop the waves, but a Stoic man knows his job is to hold the anchor. My friend, listen carefully. In a relationship, emotions will rise. They will come suddenly, loudly, and sometimes unfairly. A small mistake becomes a storm. A missed expectation becomes an accusation. A feeling becomes a verdict. And in that moment, many men lose themselves. Not because they are guilty, but because they are afraid of the emotional weather. They hear the trembling voice. They see the tears. They feel the silence becoming heavy. And immediately, they begin searching for a way to end the discomfort. So they apologize. Not because they were wrong, not because truth demands it, but because they want the storm to stop. That is not peacekeeping. That is fear wearing a gentleman's coat. The harsh truth is this: a man who apologizes only to stop a woman's emotions is not leading with love. He is negotiating with pressure. And whatever you reward, you train. If you reward emotional chaos with false guilt, you teach chaos to return stronger next time. If you reward blame with surrender, you teach blame that it works. If you reward tears with a lie, you teach the relationship that truth is optional when feelings become loud enough. This is how weak love is built. Not through one great betrayal, but through small false apologies repeated over time. One lie to calm the night. One surrender to avoid conflict. One abandoned boundary to keep affection. And slowly the man becomes less truthful, less grounded, less respected, and less himself. Stoicism does not teach a man to ignore emotion. That is not strength. That is emotional laziness. A Stoic man listens. He observes. He hears the pain behind the words, but he does not confuse pain with truth. This distinction is everything. A feeling can be real and still be wrong. A wound can be genuine and still be aimed at the wrong person. A tear can be sincere and still be used to avoid responsibility. The Stoic does not mock emotion, but he refuses to let emotion replace reality. In love, the waves matter, but the anchor matters more. Without emotion, love becomes dry and lifeless. But without truth, love becomes unstable and dangerous. A relationship ruled only by feelings is like a ship that changes direction every time the water moves. It may look passionate, but it will never reach a safe shore. The anchor is truth. The rope is self-control. The hand that holds it is character. When emotions rise, a Stoic man does not shout louder. He does not insult. He does not become cold for the sake of appearing powerful. He simply refuses to abandon what is true. He can say, "I understand that you are hurt," but he does not need to say, "I am guilty," if he is not. He can say, "I care about how this feels to you," but he does not need to say, "Your feeling is the full truth." He can say, "I want peace between us," but he does not need to buy peace with a false confession. That is the lesson. Compassion is not surrender. Calmness is not guilt. Love is not the deletion of self-respect. Many men were never taught this. They were taught that masculinity means absorbing everything. Swallow the accusation. Take the blame. End the fight. Be the bigger person. But being the bigger person does not mean becoming the easier person to manipulate. A real man does not need to win every argument, but he must not lose himself just to end one. There is a deep difference between humility and self-erasure. Humility says, "I can be wrong." Self-erasure says, "I will pretend to be wrong so you will love me again." One builds character, the other destroys it. The Stoic path is harder because it asks a man to stay steady without becoming cruel, to hold truth without weaponizing it, to stand firm without humiliating the person in front of him. That is emotional mastery. Not silence from fear, not apology from weakness, not logic used like a knife, but truth held like an anchor in rough water. So when love becomes tense, remember this. Do not fight the waves. Do not worship the waves. Do not become the waves. Hold the anchor. Speak with calm. Listen with strength. Refuse the lie, because any relationship that can only survive when you betray the truth was already sinking. And the next lesson is even sharper. A false apology may taste sweet in the moment, but it is honey spread over a cracked vase. A false apology is honey spread over a cracked vase. A false apology feels sweet for a moment, but it does not heal the fracture underneath. My friend, this is the second lesson. There is a kind of apology that is sacred. It comes from honesty. It says, I see where I failed. I take responsibility. I will correct my behavior. That apology is not weakness, it is moral strength. A Stoic man should never be too proud to apologize when he has violated truth, justice, patience, or self-control. If he spoke with cruelty, he should apologize. If he broke his word, he should apologize. If he acted from ego, rage, neglect, or selfishness, he should apologize. That kind of apology cleans the soul. But there is another kind of apology, a false apology, and that one does not clean anything. It only covers the damage. It is honey spread over a cracked vase. For a moment, everything looks softer. The conflict quiets. The other person relaxes. The tension leaves the air. Maybe affection returns. Maybe the night feels saved. But underneath, the crack remains. And worse, the man knows it. He knows he said something untrue. He knows he accepted guilt that did not belong to him. He knows he used his own integrity as payment for temporary peace. That is the hidden poison. A false apology does not only lie to the other person, it lies to the self. And every lie told to the self becomes a fracture in character. The harsh truth is this: when you apologize for something you did not do, you are not protecting love. You are teaching love to survive on dishonesty. You are saying, my truth can be sacrificed if your emotion becomes strong enough. You are saying, my dignity can be traded for affection. You are saying, the facts do not matter if the mood becomes uncomfortable. That is not compassion. That is corruption in romantic language. Many men do this because they believe the moment matters more than the pattern. They think, it is just one apology. It is just one night. It is just one argument. Why make everything difficult? But relationships are not destroyed only by large betrayals. They are also destroyed by small dishonors repeated until they become normal. One false apology becomes two. Two become a habit. A habit becomes an expectation. And soon, a man is no longer apologizing because he is wrong. He is apologizing because the relationship has trained him to surrender whenever emotional pressure appears. This is how respect dies, quietly, not with shouting, but with a man repeatedly abandoning his own judgment. Stoicism teaches that truth is not decoration. Truth is foundation. If the foundation cracks, the house of love cannot stand for long, no matter how beautiful the flowers on the table appear. Love without truth becomes theater. Peace without truth becomes anesthesia. Apology without truth becomes self-betrayal. A Stoic man must ask before apologizing. Did I violate virtue? Did I act unjustly? Did I speak falsely? Did I lose control of myself? Did I fail in my duty? If the answer is yes, apologize fully. No excuses, no pride, no manipulation. A clean apology is one of the strongest things a man can give. But if the answer is no, then do not use the word sorry as a towel to wipe away someone else's discomfort. You may offer understanding. You may offer calm. You may offer presence. You may offer a conversation, but you must not offer a lie. You can say, I hear that this hurt you. You can say, I want to understand why this feels heavy. You can say, I care about us enough to speak truthfully. But do not say, I was wrong, when your conscience knows you were not. Because your conscience is listening, and a man who betrays his conscience too many times eventually stops trusting himself. My friend, remember this. The goal is not to be right at any cost. That is ego. The goal is to be truthful with compassion. That is virtue. A Stoic man does not use truth like a hammer to crush the person he loves. But he also does not melt truth into sugar just to make it easier to swallow. He holds the cracked vase in his hands and says, "Let us repair what is real, not decorate what is broken. That is love with backbone. That is peace with roots. That is apology with honor." And now we move to the third lesson. The sword of truth must be carried in the sheath of compassion, or strength becomes cruelty. The sword of truth needs the sheath of compassion, or strength becomes cruelty. Truth without compassion is not wisdom. It is just a sharp blade in the hands of an untrained man. My friend, this is the third lesson. Many men hear the word truth and immediately think it gives them permission to become harsh. They believe that because they are technically correct, they are morally clean. They throw facts like stones, cut with logic, and then call the other person weak for bleeding. But Stoicism does not teach brutality. It teaches mastery. A Stoic man does not worship being right. He worships virtue. And virtue is not made of truth alone. It is made of truth, courage, justice, wisdom, and self-control standing together. If you hold truth without self-control, you become cruel. If you hold compassion without truth, you become weak. The mature man must carry both. This is the sword and the sheath. Truth is the sword. Compassion is the sheath. A sword without a sheath wounds everything it touches. A sheath without a sword protects nothing. Together, they become strength with discipline. In love, this matters deeply. There will be moments when the person in front of you is emotional, defensive, ashamed, or afraid. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe they know they were wrong, but pride is covering the wound. Maybe their anger is not really anger, but fear wearing armor. In that moment, your truth must be steady, but your delivery must be clean. Do not insult. Do not mock. Do not humiliate. Do not use someone's emotional state as proof that you are superior. That is not Stoicism. That is ego dressed as philosophy. The harsh truth is this. Some men do not want truth. They want revenge with better vocabulary. They say, "I'm just being honest." But what they really mean is, "I finally found a socially acceptable way to hurt you." A Stoic man must be better than that. He must speak truth in a way that protects his integrity without destroying the other person's dignity. He can say, "I cannot apologize for something I did not do." He does not need to say, "You are acting like a child." He can say, "I care about your feelings, but I will not lie to validate them." He does not need to say, "Your emotions are stupid." He can say, "Let us discuss what actually happened." He does not need to turn the conversation into a trial where love is strangled by evidence. There is power in restraint. There is authority in a calm voice. There is masculine strength in refusing to become ugly just because someone else became emotional. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about meeting difficult people without becoming like them. That is the test. Not whether you can defeat someone in an argument, but whether you can remain honorable while being misunderstood. Because if your truth makes you arrogant, it has not made you wise. It has only made you sharper, and sharpness without wisdom is dangerous. My friend, a relationship is not a battlefield where the goal is to leave the other person defeated. It is more like tending a sacred fire. If you throw truth onto it without care, you may extinguish warmth. If you avoid truth completely, the fire becomes smoke and suffocation. The Stoic man adds wood with patience. He removes poison from the flame. He protects the fire without pretending the smoke is healthy. This is how truth should work in love. It should clarify, not crush. It should correct, not humiliate. It should strengthen the foundation, not burn the whole structure for the satisfaction of being right. So when emotions rise and false blame appears, do not surrender your truth, but also do not turn your truth into a weapon of contempt. Stand firm. Speak slowly. Choose words that your future self will respect. Remember that the goal is not to win the moment. The goal is to remain a man of virtue. This is the third Stoic lesson. Carry the sword of truth, but keep it in the sheath of compassion. Because a man who cannot defend truth is weak, but a man who cannot deliver truth with restraint is not strong either. He is merely uncontrolled in a more intelligent form. And now we move to the fourth lesson. The phrase man up does not mean kneel before another person's emotions. It means stand upright in your own principles. Man up does not mean kneel before another person's emotions. The words man up are often used by people who want strength from you but not truth. They want your backbone only when it carries their comfort. My friend, this is the fourth lesson. A man must be strong. That is true. But strength does not mean becoming a carpet for another person's emotional storm. Strength does not mean apologizing for things you did not do. Strength does not mean absorbing every accusation just to prove you can take pain. That is not masculinity. That is trained self-abandonment. The harsh truth is this. Many people say man up, when what they really mean is make yourself smaller so I do not have to grow. They do not want your leadership. They want your surrender with a noble name placed on top of it. They want you to carry the weight of the conflict even when you did not create it. They want you to turn your self-respect into a cushion for their discomfort. But a Stoic man must understand the difference between sacrifice and submission. Sacrifice is when you give something up for virtue. Submission is when you give something up because you fear the consequence of standing firm. One strengthens the soul, the other empties it. A man can sacrifice his comfort to protect truth. He can sacrifice his pride to apologize when he is wrong. He can sacrifice his ego to listen deeply. He can sacrifice his anger to speak with restraint. These are noble sacrifices, but he must not sacrifice his integrity to buy affection. He must not sacrifice his boundaries to avoid silence. He must not sacrifice truth because someone calls his steadiness cold. That is not love. That is a transaction where his dignity becomes the payment. Stoicism teaches that courage is not loud. Courage is the quiet ability to remain faithful to what is right while pressure tries to bend you. This is where many men fail. They confuse calm with weakness. They confuse kindness with surrender. They confuse being a gentleman with being endlessly available for blame. But a gentleman without boundaries becomes a servant, and a servant cannot lead love. He can only beg to keep it. My friend, man up does not mean kneel. It means stand upright. Stand upright when someone tries to make you responsible for their lack of responsibility. Stand upright when emotions become loud enough to make truth inconvenient. Stand upright when the easy path is a fake apology and the hard path is honest discomfort. Stand upright without shouting. Stand upright without insulting. Stand upright without trying to dominate. Because real masculine strength does not need cruelty to prove it exists. It is enough to remain unmoved by manipulation and still untouched by bitterness. Think of an old oak tree in a violent wind. The tree does not attack the wind. It does not beg the wind to stop. It simply keeps its roots deep and refuses to become the storm. That is the image of a Stoic man in emotional pressure. Rooted, quiet, alive, unbent. He can say, I hear you. He can say, I care. He can say, I want to understand. But he must also be able to say, I will not lie to make this easier. That sentence is not cruelty. It is the spine of truth. And the person who cannot accept that sentence does not want intimacy. They want control wrapped in emotion. A real relationship requires two adults standing before truth, not one adult carrying truth while the other hides behind feelings. This is the fourth Stoic lesson. Do not let the phrase man up turn you into a man who disappears inside his own relationship. Man up means govern yourself. Man up means protect your virtue. Man up means tell the truth with discipline. Man up means refuse to become cruel, but also refuse to become false. Because if you must kneel before someone's emotions to be loved, then what they love is not you. They love your surrender. And now we move to the fifth lesson. A man who loses his boundaries will soon lose himself. A man who loses his boundaries will soon lose himself. A man without boundaries is not loving. He is slowly disappearing while calling it devotion. My friend, this is the fifth lesson. There is a kind of man who believes love means endless access. He gives his time without measure. He gives his energy without wisdom. He gives forgiveness without correction. He gives apologies without truth. He gives his peace to every emotional demand placed before him. And at first, people may call him good. They may call him patient. They may call him understanding. But if he is not careful, what they are really praising is how easy he is to consume. The harsh truth is this: if you do not define your boundaries, someone else will define your limits for you. And they will usually define them in a way that benefits them more than it protects you. A boundary is not a wall of hatred. It is not punishment. It is not coldness. It is the line where love ends and self-betrayal begins. The Stoic man understands this. He can love deeply, but he does not let love turn him into soft clay in someone else's hands. He can be kind, but kindness does not mean being available for disrespect. He can listen, but listening does not mean accepting false blame. He can forgive, but forgiveness does not mean pretending the pattern is harmless. A man without boundaries becomes like a city with no guards. At first, the gates are open because he wants to appear generous, but soon, everything enters. Drama enters, guilt enters, manipulation enters, emotional chaos enters, false responsibility enters, and eventually, the man wonders why his inner life feels invaded. He forgot that peace must be protected. Stoicism teaches self-command. But self-command is impossible if you hand command of your emotional state to another person. If someone's silence can make you abandon truth, they command you. If someone's tears can make you confess to what you did not do, they command you. If someone's anger can make you lower your standards, they command you. If someone's affection is the reward for your surrender, they command you. And a man who is commanded by another person's emotional weather is not free. He is merely attached. This does not mean you become hard. A Stoic man is not a stone. He is more like a well-built bridge, strong enough to carry weight, but not foolish enough to collapse under every traveler who crosses it. You must know what you can carry, and you must know what you will not carry. You can carry honest emotion. You cannot carry emotional blackmail. You can carry difficult conversations. You cannot carry another person's refusal to take responsibility. You can carry love. You cannot carry a relationship that requires your self-respect as payment. That is the difference. Many men fear boundaries because they believe boundaries will make someone leave. But listen carefully. Anyone who leaves because you finally became honest about your limits was not loving you. They were benefiting from your lack of limits. That is not a loss. That is a revelation. A boundary reveals the truth of the connection. Real love may feel challenged by a boundary, but it will eventually respect it. Control will resent it. Immaturity will punish it. Manipulation will call it cruelty. Let it. Your boundary is not required to make everyone comfortable. It is required to keep you whole. So speak the line calmly, not with rage, not with threats, not with a performance of dominance. Say it like a man who has already made peace with the cost of truth. I will listen, but I will not accept false blame. I will care about your feelings, but I will not lie to validate them. I will work on us, but I will not erase myself to keep us alive. I will apologize when I am wrong, but I will not apologize to buy silence. That is not cruelty. That is structure. And love without structure becomes emotional flooding. A river without banks does not become more loving. It becomes a disaster. The banks do not hate the water. They give it direction. In the same way, boundaries do not kill love. They give love a form strong enough to survive. This is the fifth Stoic lesson. Guard your boundaries without bitterness. Hold your line without contempt. Love without surrendering the throne of your own soul. Because when a man loses his boundaries, he does not just lose peace. He loses the ability to recognize himself. And now we move to the sixth lesson. False peace is only a torch slowly dying in the wind. False peace is only a torch, slowly dying in the wind. False peace feels warm at first, but it gives less light every time you feed it with a lie. My friend, this is the sixth lesson. Many men are not afraid of conflict. They are afraid of what conflict might reveal. They are afraid that if they stop apologizing falsely, stop absorbing blame, stop pretending the problem is smaller than it is, then the relationship may show its real condition. So they choose quiet. They choose the soft voice, the fake apology, the forced hug, the familiar sentence, "Let us just move on." And for a moment, the torch still burns. The night becomes calm. The argument ends. The silence feels less dangerous. But deep inside, something has been lost. Truth has been traded. Respect has been weakened. A wound has been covered, not cleaned. This is false peace. It is not peace born from understanding. It is peace purchased by avoidance. And avoidance always sends the bill later. The harsh truth is this: if the only way to keep peace is to lie, then peace is not what you have. You have a ceasefire with resentment hiding underneath. A Stoic man must know the difference between calm and decay. Calm is when two people face reality without destroying each other. Decay is when two people avoid reality, so the moment feels easier. One strengthens love, the other rots it from the inside. Think of integrity as a torch in the wind. The wind may be emotion, pressure, guilt, silence, tears, or fear of being abandoned. Every time you protect the flame with truth, it burns brighter. Every time you cover it with a lie to make someone else comfortable, it loses oxygen. Eventually, the torch does not go out loudly. It fades. That is how many men lose themselves in relationships. Not through betrayal, through slow dimming. They stop saying what they mean. They stop asking for what is fair. They stop correcting what is false. They stop expecting accountability. They call the darkness peace because at least no one is shouting. But a quiet lie is still a lie. And a relationship that depends on quiet lies is not stable. It is only waiting for the next wind. Stoicism teaches that tranquility is not the absence of trouble. Tranquility is the presence of a mind aligned with virtue. If your outer life is calm, but your conscience is restless, you are not at peace. You are only sedated. My friend, never mistake emotional sedation for love. Love should not require you to numb your judgment. Love should not require you to bury truth under politeness. Love should not require you to smile while your self-respect is being drained. Real peace has roots. False peace has curtains. Real peace says, "Let us face this honestly." False peace says, "Let us pretend this did not happen." Real peace may feel uncomfortable at first, but it leaves the soul clean. False peace feels comfortable at first, but it leaves the soul divided. This is why a Stoic man must sometimes allow discomfort. Not because he enjoys conflict, but because discomfort is often the price of honesty. A difficult conversation can be medicine. An honest boundary can be medicine. A refused false apology can be medicine. It may taste bitter in the moment, but it prevents a deeper sickness. So when you feel tempted to say sorry just to make the night easier, pause. Ask yourself, will this apology create truth or cover it? Will this peace strengthen, respect, or weaken it? Will I sleep with a clean conscience after saying this? If the answer is no, do not say it. Silence with integrity is better than affection bought with self-betrayal. A Stoic man does not worship conflict, but he also does not worship comfort. He worships virtue. And virtue sometimes stands in the wind holding a torch, while everyone else begs for the lights to be turned off. This is the 6th Stoic lesson. Do not trade truth for a quiet evening. Do not let false peace dim the fire of your integrity. Let the torch burn, even if the wind rises. Because a love that cannot survive honest light was already living in darkness. And now we move to the 7th lesson. A Stoic man can love deeply, but he must never betray truth just to be loved back. A Stoic man can love deeply, but he must never betray truth just to be loved back. A man who betrays truth for love will eventually lose both. He will lose the truth first, and then he will lose the respect that made love possible. My friend, this is the 7th lesson. A Stoic man is not afraid to love. He is not afraid of tenderness. He is not afraid to care, to protect, to listen, to hold someone through a difficult night, to give patience when emotion is heavy and words come out wounded. But he must never confuse love with self-erasure, because love that requires you to betray your conscience is not love. It is a velvet chain. It feels soft around the wrist, but it still binds the soul. The harsh truth is this: if someone only feels loved when you lie, then what they want is not intimacy. They want control over your reality. If someone only feels safe when you accept blame that is not yours, then they are not asking for peace. They are asking for permission to avoid responsibility. If someone calls you cold because you refuse to abandon truth, then they are not wounded by your lack of love. They are wounded by your refusal to be managed. A Stoic man must see this clearly. He can say, "I love you," but he must also be able to say, "I will not lie for you." He can say, "I care about your pain," but he must also be able to say, "Your pain does not give you ownership of my conscience." He can say, "I want us to heal," but he must also be able to say, "Healing cannot begin with a false confession." This is not cruelty. This is love with a spine. Too many men are addicted to being chosen. They fear the coldness, the distance, the withdrawal, the loss of affection. So they bend. They soften the truth. They apologize to end tension. They smile while something inside them breaks. And they tell themselves, "This is sacrifice." No, sacrifice gives up comfort for virtue. Self-betrayal gives up virtue for comfort. Never confuse the two. The Stoics taught that the only true good is virtue, not pleasure, not approval, not attachment, not being desired, not being kept. Virtue. That means a man must be willing to lose what is pleasant in order to keep what is right. A relationship may be precious, but it cannot be more precious than the soul that enters it. If you must become false to stay loved, then you are not being loved as a man. You are being rewarded as a servant, and every servant eventually begins to resent the hand that feeds him. My friend, real love does not ask you to delete yourself. It asks you to become more honest, more disciplined, more courageous, more capable of seeing another person without abandoning your own center. Real love can survive truth. It may tremble. It may become uncomfortable. It may require time, humility, and difficult conversation, but it does not need lies to breathe. A weak bond demands constant emotional anesthesia. A strong bond can endure the medicine of truth. That medicine may taste bitter, but it cleans the wound. So love deeply, but do not worship being loved back. Give warmth, but do not give away your principles. Offer understanding, but do not offer your self-respect as payment. Stand near the person you love, but do not kneel before their unexamined emotions. Because a man who needs love more than truth becomes easy to bend, easy to guilt, easy to silence, easy to command. A Stoic man must be different. He must be willing to stand alone if standing together requires dishonor, not because he hates love, but because he understands that love without truth becomes a beautiful prison. This is the 7th Stoic lesson. Love with your whole heart, but keep your conscience untouched. Be gentle, but not false. Be loyal, but not enslaved. Be compassionate, but not corruptible. And remember this: a woman, a partner, or any person worth building with will not need you to betray truth to prove love. They will respect the man who can hold both, the open heart and the unbroken spine. Because in the end, a Stoic man does not apologize for the truth. He lives by it. He loves through it. And if love leaves because truth remained, then what left was not love. It was dependence wearing love's name. My friend, remember this. A false apology may save the night, but it can destroy the man. Every time you say sorry for what you did not do, you are teaching your own soul that truth can be traded. Every time you surrender your boundary to avoid conflict, you are teaching the relationship that your dignity has a price. And every time you choose false peace over honest discomfort, you are not protecting love. You are feeding a lie, until it becomes stronger than the truth. A Stoic man does not apologize to protect his ego. He apologizes to protect his virtue. When he is wrong, he admits it. When he is cruel, he corrects it. When he fails in patience, justice, honesty, or self-control, he takes responsibility like a man. But when he is asked to apologize for the truth, he stands still. Not with anger, not with arrogance, not with cruelty, with a calm spine. Because real love does not require a man to delete himself. Real peace does not require him to lie. Real intimacy does not fear accountability. So be gentle, but do not be false. Be compassionate, but do not be corruptible. Be willing to listen, but never let another person's emotion become the ruler of your conscience. The world may call you cold when you refuse to kneel. Let it. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always call your self-respect cruelty. But a Stoic man knows better. He would rather stand alone with truth than be held close inside a lie. Because in the end, love without truth becomes dependence. Peace without truth becomes silence. And a man without truth becomes someone he can no longer respect. So never trade your integrity for a quiet evening. Never apologize for the truth. And never forget this. The right person will not need you to become smaller to feel safe. They will respect the man who can hold both, an open heart and an unbroken spine.